So, welcome everyone to the Nostalgic Dragon. Today, I have a very interesting guest. It's Nikhil from Shelfesteem. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Shrikant. It's so nice to be able to chat with you, and I love your channel. And I was saying before we started, like I love the way you interject spirituality into your reading and your thought process, and even the way you speak to guests. So I was very excited to be on this. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and for you who don't know Nikhil, he will present himself and his channel. He's a composer of fantasy music and also a booktuber.
Mhm.
I think I was really interested in you because of your musical background, and I saw some conversations with you and other booktubers, and I liked your humbleness, I think, and your style and
Oh, thank you.
attitude, a lot of things. And you have a very broad reading palette. I think much broader than me. I'm quite narrow, quite niched
Mm.
in a way. And fantasy music, I think, I don't know about you viewers because I use sometimes to have music when I read. So put on
Mm.
an ambient playlist or anything fantasy playlist or anything like that. Try to find music that suits for the book I'm reading. So music is
Yeah.
really much a part of my reading. So if you're viewing this, please comment what music do you listen to and so on. And please listen to Nikhil's music as well. So maybe you can start to listen to that. So, so music is such a important part of the immersion of fantasy from my perspective. But I'm
Yeah.
really curious on you, Nikhil. Your journey, you becoming a composer and music, maybe how that started, and how you got into fantasy, and how did you get the opportunity to make music, and how is that like? It's really interesting, I think.
Oh
Please.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm happy to go into it, and I appreciate you asking, Shrikant. So for me, I grew up playing piano when I was younger, and I always liked music. I always enjoyed it, and I remember when I was really young. I think I was like 2 or 3 years old. I learned to work my dad's cassette player, and I heard Vangelis's "Chariots of Fire" album for the first time, and I was just addicted. So I was always music was a big part of my life. And I started playing in bands when I moved to LA about now 17 years ago. So it's been a while. And I'd always wanted to do scoring, and so I scored my first film in 2012. I really enjoyed it, and I was doing the band and the film composing side by side. And I kind of realized, I really like writing for picture more than touring. And if I could do that every day for the rest of my life, that would be the thing. So around 2016, end of 2016, early 2017, I made the pivot to full-time composing. And I was working on a bunch of different projects at the time, but I was also simultaneously getting into fantasy. So I read The Hobbit growing up. I read, Harry Potter, but I always felt like those books, they crossed the cultural lexicon in a way that you don't think of them necessarily as overt fantasy. Meaning, when something is in pop culture, I think you think of it as something different slightly than the
Hmm.
fantasy you hear about, the sword and sorcery, dragons, and all sorts of things. I had preconceived notions about what fantasy could be. And then I read The Dark Tower by Stephen King, which is really a deconstruction of fantasy.
Yeah,
And I thought it
yeah.
was so profound. Yeah, I thought it was so profound. And the philosophical ideas that are presented, and I'm like, oh, that could be fantasy as well. And so that opened up my worldview a little bit. I was like, I didn't realize fantasy could be so all encompassing. And it's really just a vehicle for telling stories, really. Fantasy. You can have fantasy horror, you can have
Hmm.
fantasy sci-fi, you can have, fantasy that's influenced by different cultures. You can, it's sky's the limit. So that was kind of the first light bulb that went off in my mind. Then in 2019, I was working on scoring projects, and I thought to myself, I love reading. Now I've rediscovered reading as an adult, and I'm like reading a lot. And every time I work on a music project, I feel like, oh, I wish I had some more time to read. Every time I'm reading, I'm like, I really should be working on these music projects. And so I always thought, if I could find a way to combine those two things into one thing, that would be really special. So I just went on online to find the biggest projects I could find that were fantasy related that were being developed, and I saw the Wheel of Time was being developed by Amazon Studios. Yeah, this was 2019, and I hadn't read any Wheel of Time at that point, so I said,
Hmm.
I'll pick up the books. and one quickly became two and quickly became the whole series, you know. And
Mm.
I just fell in love with it. And again, it made me realize, like, oh, you could have reincarnation as a part of fantasy world, you know. You could have Eastern philosophy in fantasy. So this really blew the doors wide open for me in terms of what fantasy could be. Then I became an avid fantasy reader, and so I wrote a musical love letter to the Wheel of Time series, which has meant so much to me, you know. And I recorded it actually with the Budapest Orchestra.
Mhm.
And I just sent it out to production, and then I tweeted it out to the fans, you know, with the hashtag Twitter of Time, because that's like that was the Wheel of Time community there at the
Yeah.
time.
Mm.
And they started sharing it like crazy. So Tor.com, Tor is the publisher of the novels, they did a whole article on it. And because it was like a orchestral video for this piece. And then Lorne Balfe, who was the composer who got hired to score the whole show, he saw it, and so he gave me an audition, and I somehow passed the audition. So I ended up working first on his Dark Materials, which was the HBO show,
Mm.
writing a bunch of music for that, and then I ended up working on the Wheel of Time.
Mm.
And I was an additional writer to start with, but it was funny because when I would send cues, which are pieces of music, to Lorne and then the rest of the team for approval, I
Mm.
would mention, I've read the books now, and we're in season two because I joined in season two. We're in
Mm.
season two, and they're alluding to something that is going to take place if the arc follows what the books are following. It'll
Yeah.
take place in season three or four. What if we tease it musically here?
Mm.
Make a motif that it feels kind of like it's taking this character to a different place.
Mm.
And so he made me the music team lead for the season, which so my job was kind of shepherding the musical score across the finish line.
Mm.
And so I was writing cues for it, and then that culminated in writing a song called "The Hills of Tenshiko," which was a musical number in the season three, which was
Mm.
sung by some of the main cast and stuff. And so it was a dream come true, really. And from that, I've gotten a chance to work on book adaptations that are more soundtrack albums. So I worked on an official Brent Weeks Lightbringer companion album that we worked with Brent Weeks to do the album, and I wrote a track called Lightbringer, which is the
Mhm.
main theme of the album. And then I've worked with Philip Chase now on his
Yeah.
Idan
Great.
trilogy, did a main theme for that, and I have a couple other book related projects in the works. But really, I think like the biggest lesson I learned from that was you find things that you love to do and figure out how to combine them in interesting ways,
Mm.
because oftentimes they're not deliberately done that way with intention. And if you do, you're probably going to have fun doing it,
Mm.
and you never know what opportunities will come from that. So
Right.
I was just a dream come true, really. And so now I love doing that. I'm like seeing, oh, something is being adapted. Oh, I guess I got to read the whole 10-book series now. Oh, shucks. So
Yeah, I mean
yeah.
that's an amazing story. I think that's really, really interesting. And now, as I mean, I'm been singing in choir, so I have I'm very interested in music, but I'm
Oh
not
yeah, yeah.
composing talents at all. I can't say that, but if you like if we take the Wheel of Time, for example, if I
Hmm.
understand it right, you read the book and then the Amazon and so on, that was TV show. How
Yeah.
do you, maybe this is a difficult question, but I was
Hmm.
thinking here when I was commuting home today, like when you read the book, you get a feeling maybe for the story, and then you translate that into music and
Music.
what kind of music and what kind of atmosphere. How do you, I don't know, can you answer how do you process
Yeah.
that? Yeah.
It's tough because these worlds are so expansive. And how can you write a piece of music that can encapsulate a whole world that has so many characters and so much lore? I think for me, like my thing was to write from a place of feeling how I felt when I was reading those books. I specifically remember this battle sequence in book two, The Great Hunt, which if anybody knows who's read that, they know that was a huge turning point in the series. And I remember how I felt reading that, and that was really what made me an avid fantasy fan.
Mm.
And so I felt like my mind was expanding in real time as I was reading that, and I wanted to capture that feeling. So I wrote while thinking about how that made me feel,
Mm.
and that was a really helpful part of it. Then beyond that, I always like to start with melody first, you know, because it's very easy to get bogged down by everything else. And I
Mm,
have this kind of theory, like if you can play it on one instrument and it's hummable, then it at least, you know, you can capture the essence of that particular world, you know. And so I would play the same melody over and over again, maybe 58 times, 100 times on the piano, till I could get the notes exactly in the right place. Then once that was the case, then it's building the world around those notes, essentially.
mm,
So it's like, what instruments are you going to choose? You
mhm,
know, orchestral worked really well for that, especially more of the traditional aspects of Wheel of Time.
mm,
And so, you know, it kind of builds snowballs from there. I think if it's a character theme, maybe then it's something related to like what is their arc actually about, you know? It's like if it's Rand, it's not just about him being like the chosen one. It's
mm,
about so much more complexity of what he has to deal with. So it's like let's capture that. Let's capture the
mm,
struggle, not the prophecy. You know,
mm,
there's many ways one can do it.
mm,
If you one was to take Nynaeve's character, her character changes throughout the series quite a bit. So, which Nynaeve do you want to capture? Do you want to
mm,
capture the essence of her whole arc? Do you want to capture a specific point in her journey? You know, so there's so many ways you can do that, and I think like subtext and
mm.
theme, really all the storytelling devices that we love about complex fantasy series is something I try to think about musically, actually. And then the music seems to sort itself out when I do that, you know, and maybe that's why there's so much of a parallel to storytelling and music, is like they're kind of
Uh,
different languages of expressing the same thing, maybe,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
sounds true. I think I write poetry. I can't compare
Oh,
on a
yeah,
hobby basis though. So write haiku and other, longer
amazing.
poetry. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's fun. And then I have usually that those lines just happen. Some poem or start
yeah,
of a poem. I don't know when it happened. Happen. I can be out walking. I can do kettlebells, or I can do meditation, or anything. Anything
yeah.
happens. So I was thinking about
Mm.
the process for you as a. First of all, wanted to ask you about the. Maybe you said that earlier, but do you have what is your core when you were small? What was your the instrument you started with?
Main instrument. Yeah, I started on piano. So I
Right?
typically write on piano because it's such
Mm-hmm.
a versatile instrument in the sense that like you can do the melody, you can do the chords, you can do them kind of all in one. And so it's very easy for me to kind of figure out what would the chord structure be here, what would the melody be to capture the essence of the theme.
Mm-hmm.
So I typically do start on the piano. Sometimes I'll start on other stuff though, because for example, on the Hills of Tenchiko, which was this musical number, it was a very guitar-based song. So I started
Mm.
on acoustic guitar and I would hum a melody. And Remy Park had written the lyrics already because she was the writer of episode 6, which is one of the best episodes I think in that season. She wrote some of the best stuff I think in general in that series.
Mm.
And so I had those great lyrics to go with. And so it was about figuring out a melody that would match the cadence. So in that case, it was different, you know,
Mhm,
figuring it out on guitar and humming to the lyrics. So the process can differ quite a bit. I will say also when it's more musical world building stuff, like let's say it's capturing instruments that are, let's say, off the beaten path. You know, maybe we don't want piano. Maybe we want to start from a completely different instrument. So, for example, this is not for fantasy, but I have used this in fantasy scores as well. But on
mm,
a horror film, I found a Thai instrument called a ken, and
mhm,
it's I ordered it from Thailand. I don't know how to play any of it. But the
mhm,
beauty of these instruments is they've been played the same for hundreds or even thousands of years. So if you take them out of the context of which they're traditionally heard, or you play them the wrong way, the amateur way, it can actually be to the benefit because you play it in a different way than it's meant to be played. So you get
mhm,
an access to a whole new set of sounds that have never been heard before, maybe, you know.
mm,
And so you can make that the crux of a score. I know in on the Wheel of Time we used a lot of this horn called the carnix, which is a ancient Celtic horn, and it's
mm,
like six
mm,
feet tall, and you or rent a whole auditoriums to capture the sound of it and everything.
mhm,
Um, and that was very apt for that kind of a show, you know. And so I think there's many different ways to do it. For me, oftentimes themes and melodies start on the piano, but there's been many times when I'll do stuff like that too.
That's
Yes.
cool. I think
Yeah.
the um, I mean, when I watch a TV show and it's music, sometimes I think about it, sometimes not. It usually
Yeah.
immerses me a lot. If it's really good music, I really want to, good intro and good music in between different scenes and so on. But one newbie question when it comes to composing music, I was thinking how much the instrument effects. If you have like Wheel of Time or
Mm.
just have a dramatic scene, you have a romantic scene, you have a horror scene, you have blood, Game of Thrones is scene with a lot of
Yeah.
blood,
Yeah.
only blood. How much? I mean, how do you think when you choose instrument? Maybe I mean you're cooperating with people, so maybe there are more people having
Yeah.
opinions about that. But do you have an idea that some instruments or some um, uh, style of music works better for different scenes? I know for people who
Yeah.
compose this might be very simple, but I suppose some of the viewers have not so much ideas about composing music either. So we're
Yeah,
just
no,
curious. Yeah.
I actually feel it's a pretty nuanced kind of approach.
Mhm.
So, I feel oftentimes you have a palette of instruments that you may pull from, and that keeps the world consistent, so it's not going from one thing to something completely different. However, let's say there was a Game of Thrones scene, a particular scene that is very famous, but I don't really want to spoil.
Mhm.
You probably know season three. I think it was in Storm of Swords as well. That could have, that could be scored many different ways. If
Mhm.
it's the killing battle aspect, you may have battle music. If it is the tragedy, you might want to score the tragedy. Maybe
Mhm.
a solo cello might be a great juxtaposition against this horror, you
Mhm.
know? If there is a lot of, let's say in a horror film, you see something horrible happen on screen. Is the horror the question of the killer killing someone? Is that horror associated with the captive killing the killer? Now it's a liberating scene.
Mhm.
How does one want to score that? So I think the instrumental choice actually can be based on what is the subtext.
Mhm.
What is the actual theme of what's going on here? And how do we feel? Are we seeing it from the main character's POV? Are we seeing it from the killer's POV?
Mhm.
Are we seeing it from the victim's POV? And so that'll score very differently as well, actually. So
Mhm.
then, if you start from there, I think you can figure out what instruments would be appropriate from
Have
your general palette, I guess you could say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when you because when I watch a TV show, I just watch it. Though detailed watcher as a reader, so
Yeah, yeah, of
I can
course. Yeah,
rewatch and reread if I like the
totally.
series. One I don't know if you know about that HBO show. It's called Carnival. It's older now.
I've heard of it. Yeah, I haven't gotten a chance to see it, but I think if I remember correctly, a friend of mine, Nathan Barr, scored the
Okay,
show. Yeah, yeah.
great music. I mean,
Yeah, oh yeah.
that's music I remember. Strongly.
He
That
has I believe it was him, and he has a studio in LA that is two stories, and he built it around an organ that he has that's
Mhm.
2 floors high, and it was the old Fox lot organ from the 20s or something. And so a lot of those organ kind of sounds are in that score.
Yeah, it's a lot of, horror music, you could say, in the
Mm-hmm.
carnival. But when you watch TV
Yeah.
shows, you don't need to mention, which if you don't want to. But when do have you seen I suppose have you seen a TV show and then you think, oh, the music, bad music choice. They should have done this and that. It would be interesting to hear. When is the music? When doesn't it, serve its purpose, and when you think it's maybe not so good?
It's a really good question. I do find it's hard for me to turn it off when I watch something. Like, it's hard for me to turn that part of my brain off. So if I get into the music, I get super into it. If it takes me out of the story, it really is jarring for me. And I find that, oftentimes it could be a composer choice, of course. but oftentimes it's not necessarily the composer's choice. And from what I've seen from working on these bigger teams now, on these big productions where there's so many voices involved, maybe it's, it gets all the way up the chain, and it's a really great piece of music and very compelling, and then it gets to the final stage where they mix in the dialogue and the music and everything, and people go, I don't know, it might be a little too big, let's just take out most of the music, and so you just hear
Mm-hmm.
this like a little kind of a wimpier version of that music, and it's like, oh, but it would have made that whole part swell more, and it feels like it's not impactful. So you do see
Mm.
that actually on shows where sometimes it feels like, oh, that was kind of the path of least resistance score wise. It's like the obvious
Yeah,
choice,
yeah. Mm.
oh, horror, let's have a riser, start from here and from here. It almost feels mathematical or something, like
Mm.
like a focus group did it or something. And so, yeah, I think you do see times when scores play it safe, but I don't think it's necessarily one person's fault when that happens. I think it's sometimes just a lot of voices that are, having input into these
Mm.
things. But I do find the scores that end up being compelling is when you can hear that, like, yeah, I think about one of the best of all time, Howard Shore's Lord of the Rings scores.
Yeah. Mm.
He just swung for the fences with that. I mean, you can
Mm.
hear it. And it's amazing because when you look at his past work, it didn't necessarily go, oh, this guy, Lord of the Rings, it's like, but he just fell into it. And
Mm.
it comes across, I think. Even
Yeah.
if audiences don't know the musicality of it, they feel it.
Yeah, it's, especially the Lord of the Rings music is, great, and also something you really remember, since, yeah, we talked a little bit about books earlier, so
Yeah.
we're going to do that as well if you're watching. So
Yeah, yeah. And
oh,
go,
yeah.
just to say, I was gonna say, in books you can tell that too, like we're all avid readers and stuff. Not all of us are authors, but we appreciate the written word, and so we can tell also when an author is phoning it in or when they're like super lost in it. Um, yeah, I think we can usually, as an audience, we can usually tell when the person making the thing is having fun doing it.
Mm. I
Yeah.
read last week somewhere, I don't know where, someone said, probably a composer, I suppose, that
Mm,
music is the only universal language that
mm,
everyone can understand. I think that was very true and
yeah,
very beautiful. Do you think I mean, the maybe difficult to imagine that, but
yeah.
what would a TV show be, or a movie, without the music, or the what does the music add to the I talk a lot about immersion on my channel,
Mm,
as you might know, as being immersed in what you
yep.
read, or what you
Yeah.
game, or gaming, or playing, or whatever you do, whatever you like. But from the immersion, when you make when you compose a score, or yeah,
Mm.
music, how much do you think about the immersion,
Immersion.
the poetic aspect, want to give help the viewer to get more into the show, for example.
I think, and that's what makes writing for media first and foremost very different, is that immersion becomes a huge focus in it. It's not necessarily something you're always thinking about at the forefront, but it's, like, meaning as you're writing the piece of music, but it's always a, kind of imbued into what you do. So, for example, I think a great score is one that when it's meant to shine, it shines, and it's something memorable when people think about it away from the picture.
Hmm.
I think also on the same token, a score that knows when to come in and when to stay silent is equally important, because otherwise, if the music is just great music for music's sake, then it's really not doing its job as a score. You
Hmm.
think about any John Williams score, who's probably one of the most dense orchestral writers, right?
Hmm.
And he has just like wall to wall music in these films. But even in dialogue scenes and stuff like that, he's never in the way of the dialogue. You know,
Hmm.
he's not announcing himself during the dialogue. And there's times when there's silence, and it makes when the music comes in more impactful. Like, oh, here's a great example actually of that. Is Jaws. The opening of
Yeah.
Jaws.
Yeah.
It's silent for like 15 minutes or something, meaning no music. And then
Mm.
when the shark is approaching, suddenly you hear that
Yeah.
theme come in. So
Yeah.
yeah, and it's like that's what makes it impactful. I remember Steven Spielberg was speaking about this at one of John Williams's concerts. He came on stage to talk about this, and he was basically saying, he's like, had that music come in any earlier, it wouldn't have scared you, because the idea is that this like almost otherworldly presence is lurking in the back, and
Mm.
when it gets closer, that's when you suddenly feel its presence. So I think, music's absence is as important as its announcement. And you never want to get in the way of dialogue either, I guess you could say. So you want the actors to shine, you want their performances to be as elevated as possible. Sometimes that's letting the music get out of the way. Let the
Mm.
actors do what they do. And if there's parts that will help guide that, that's great too, So yeah, it's again probably a very multi-layered answer, but
That's good. That's great. I think. I
yeah.
mean, this is fun and complex. So fun things are
Yeah,
complex. And when I mean, when
totally.
my wife watch movies or TV shows, we have a,
Yeah,
she's more allergic to loud sounds and loud music.
sure, sure. Yeah.
But still, sometimes when we watch, we can really feel that this music made the TV show or the
Mm.
movie not good because usually when there is a lot of bass effect and loud music and maybe screaming
Mhm.
music. Um, I'm not sure how that is when you are composing music like that. Because you have obviously a dialogue with the producer, then I suppose, of course.
Mhm.
And do they, order certain kind of music? How free are you to suggest and to adjust, for example, from your comp?
Yeah, that's actually a great question. I think the project really dictates that. So, for example, on the Wheel of Time, or any of those shows that I worked on with Lauren. So they were kind of bigger budget shows. There was another one called Life on Our Planet, which was a little bit different docu-series, but very orchestral. So we record live orchestra. They would have times when the music would be so loud, and it was like, wow,
Mm-hmm.
they really want to push it this time, because usually they'll turn it down. That's always the complaint.
Mm.
But yeah, so sorry, say the question again. I just want to make sure I'm not deviating too far.
No, but if the when you work with the producer,
Yeah.
do they order music?
Oh, right, right, right. Okay.
Yeah, or have you the voice to adjust this? How much can you put in your own creativity in that, or have we want this,
Yeah.
loud fighting music? And you say, okay, I'll fix that. So here you are, or can you affect that, for example?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, so on the bigger projects, they will sometimes have a reference track in that scene that has maybe the rhythm, the tempo of what they like. And you don't want to sound like the reference, but the idea is more like, oh, we're editing the scene, it has to be tightly edited to music. And so we want to kind of get the feel of what's the energy of this music going to be. So I we usually have extensive dialogue with the producer or the director, showrunner. What about this music do you like? Oh, do you like the drums? Okay, cool. I can just make my own piece, but matching the energy of the percussion that you like in this piece. Good,
Mm,
done. Or, oh, they just like the tempo, the speed of the music.
mm,
They just like where it rises and falls. You make your own theme, you make your own thing, but it may rise and fall in a similar emotional arc, so it captures that kind
mm,
of a thing will be there. I'm working on a docu series now where the showrunner, uh, what's it called, prefers to have the composer be more self-starter about it. It's
mm.
like, hey, you suggest stuff to me, let's try some stuff out and
Yeah,
see what works.
yeah,
So
great.
there's a lot of
Great.
freedom that comes with that. And
Mm,
I think, I see the good in both approaches, actually, because sometimes, especially when there's a big team on board and deadlines are fast coming,
mm,
you want to get to the heart of, like, what is the producer like?
mm,
And you can go, I'm going to write my own thing, but it will still capture the essence, the 10% of what the
mm,
producer liked.
mm.
In the case of having complete freedom, it's like, even you could surprise yourself and you could surprise the showrunner in a
Yeah.
good way. So Yeah, I think both approaches are really cool, honestly.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a long shot, I would say, but I'm writing reports and things like that. That's not the
Mm,
same, but you have the opportunity to be creative sometimes, and sometimes it's an order to write something that someone wants. So it's
right.
not the same, but it's some kind of similarity on the
I'm
surface,
always
at least.
I'm always amazed at how much of a parallel there are between music and writing, actually.
Hmm.
Because any writer I speak to of anything, whether it be reports, books,
Hmm.
essays, whatever it is, the creative process of it, and then even some of these things, like you mentioned, the
Hmm.
logistical side of things,
Yeah.
there's a lot of parallels, actually.
Yeah, actually, it's like we work with to convey things with words or music or whatever it
Yeah.
is. So there's something in it. Maybe bureaucracy is not so poetic, but it can be. So I
True.
was talking to a colleague this morning actually
Yeah.
about the thing, and I said because he's a poet, so he's doing poetry for about minority groups
Oh,
in
wow.
Sweden. Yeah, so I said maybe you can write because I had a problem or yeah, some kind of tricky question this morning, and said maybe you can write a poem about this and inspire me. So I mean,
That's
even the
cool.
Greeks, the philosophers, they had their poets and everything in Greece. So maybe
Exactly. Yeah.
who knows?
It's very
What?
adjacent. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Have you thought about maybe this is not your cup of tea,
Mm.
but I'm thinking about sometimes I talk about video games on the channel, but only from a storytelling perspective. So it's not a gaming channel or anything like that.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
now I'm playing The Witcher, for example. So talking about
Oh,
the
nice.
music
Is it
and
Witcher
so.
3 or?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So I'm a bit
that's the
late
one.
to the party, so, but now I'm
It's
here.
so good, isn't it?
Yeah, it is very
Um,
good. Have you thought about, or is that not a you know uh, not attractive, so to speak? Making music for video games, for example, things like that. Has that ever occurred to you, for example?
Yeah, actually, it's funny. I started writing music for video games actually in maybe 2015 or so.
Yeah.
And so I still do that on occasion. I had worked on a couple years ago a game called League of Legends, which is like from Riot Games. They wanted a theme for their Lunar New Year rollout that they
Mm-hmm.
do every year. So I
Mm-hmm.
did the official main theme for 2023. And that was amazing because it was kind of a one-off, and so they wanted a theme, which I love to do,
Mm-hmm.
and we could do live recordings for it, and it was in the game, but it was in the game for a specific time period.
Yeah.
Then
Okay. Yeah. So
um,
short
shorter thing.
seconds. Right.
Exactly, yeah. And I'm working on a couple games actually right now that are in the prototype phase, and so we'll see if they get funding or not. One
Mm.
is tied to an IP, so hopefully that will increase the chances
Yeah.
that it'll get funded. And the other one is more of an independent thing. But yeah, I love games because it's diametrically opposite to TV in a lot of ways. In TV, you have, maybe a week or two to write a
Mm.
whole episode's worth of music, you know? So sometimes you need a team to help. But with games, it's so slow because
Mm.
the cycle for a game, a typical, decent sized game is like 3 years,
Yeah. Right.
and so I'm getting requests for themes, and they're like, "Hey, could you have a theme to us in a couple months?" I'm like, "Couple months? Wow, that's so
Yeah.
luxurious." And so on one hand, the TV stuff has to be very fully formed when you send it in.
Mm.
Everything has to feel like it's the finished product, even from draft one.
Mm.
Whereas the games, it's very iterative. You could send them sketches, and they go,
Mm.
"Oh, let's try this approach, that approach." So you kind of work on it together,
Mm.
and you're starting way earlier in the process. Like a game I've been working on the last couple years, I started from the very first drawings, concept art, and things.
Mm.
I was scoring to that actually. So
Mm.
it's a very different process, but I think it's the variety personally that I like.
Yeah.
Different culture, different ways of collaborating, different
Mm.
tech, different audiences. It's cool. Yeah.
Is there a different approach? I mean, with the TV show, you have the viewer, and then with the video game, you have the gamer, so to
Hmm.
speak, which is going to get immersed. But then you also have, I don't know if you mean music to that kind. League of Legends, isn't that Arcane? I'm not.
Yeah,
Arcane.
same company. Yeah, same company. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, connotation here or
Mhm.
association. But yeah, is there a different approach because you're both gonna live maybe the characters in a video game or a scene. If you should take a scene in a video game, and then it's going to be transferred to the person who's playing the game.
Mm.
Is it the same process? In your like you say,
It's
yeah.
Yeah, I guess fundamentally it's the same process. You want to have themes, you want to write stuff for characters, maybe for a particular world, or I will say where it's different is the logistical side of things, like how to get it into the game and make it immersive. So, for example, let's say, just as a simplified
Mm-hmm.
version of this,
Yeah.
but like, let's say there's an area one would explore as a player. Then suddenly you hear danger off in the distance. Maybe some monsters coming.
Mm,
And then suddenly you fully engage with the monster and you're attacking them. Now,
mm,
all this happens in the span of, let's say, a minute or two, or it's happening way faster. It's like you're in exploratory for about 10 seconds. Suddenly you see the danger and you're going to fight.
mm,
Um, you need to be able to have music that's malleable for all those circumstances. So, oftentimes, what I'll do is I'll write a piece of music that is three layers.
mm,
And if you take away two of the layers, you're left with just the exploratory layer. So when
mm,
they're exploring, it's the exploratory layer. You hear the danger in the distance, layer two comes back on top.
mm, mm,
Then the fully engaged layer three comes back on top.
mm,
And then they kind of are programmed so that they'll move in and out in a way that crossfades so that it's like, technically it's just very smooth. So
yeah.
whether you take 10 seconds in exploratory or 2 minutes, it doesn't matter because you're going to have those layers coming in and out as you need.
Mm.
And yet it's one piece of music. So it's like a musical Tetris maybe
Yeah,
in
right.
a
That's
way.
good
Yeah.
way of putting it. I was playing
Yeah.
Witcher here then, and I'm talking about I have a small
Right.
Witcher blog on the channel, so it's my Witcher journey.
Yeah.
But when because I bought a first year edition or first edition of Witcher. I found it in the secondhand store, and then it
Mm.
was the soundtrack was included. So I listened to it. I had problems listening to it because it was a bit
Mm.
loud and things
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
It was screaming and
For
howling.
the Witcher 3 one or the first one?
The Witcher 3.
3. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then when I played the game, I did not really think. I didn't think about the music like I do when I watching a TV show or a new
Mm,
movie. Even though the music, matters,
sure.
I couldn't really relate the music to the soundtrack. Maybe because what you are saying, they, edit and they cut out
Yeah.
pieces from the soundtrack. I don't know because yeah, it
I
was.
think that's exactly what it is. Yeah, because it's a composite of different musical pieces and layers, and you're experiencing it differently every time in the
Mm,
game. Whereas in linear storytelling, it's the same.
mm,
Played the same way. You could watch Lord of the Rings 10 times and it's the music is going to play the same way.
mm,
But if you play the game Lord of the Rings, any Lord of the Rings games 10 times, the music is
yeah,
going to play differently every time.
yeah,
So I think that's, one part of it that makes you more immersed and not necessarily like thinking about the music and taking you out of the story or
mm,
feeling ear fatigue from, oh, this is the 20th time I'm hearing the same loop over and over again.
mm,
Um, so for player immersion, actually, that's a huge part of it is the composite nature of game music. Whereas linear storytelling, it's one and done, or if you rewatch, but one and done for you. So it's all about making the impact right there on the screen.
mm. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. Also with the, s- I don't talk so much about that on the channel, but the
Yeah.
cyberpunk. I don't know if you play the
Oh
game.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, good. Also that, but that has a, that is, real songs and, music in that sense. But when I play the game, all the same thing. I don't think so much about music. Then
Mm,
I can listen on the soundtrack on Spotify or anything. So then
right. Yeah.
but then that's a bit different from, The Witcher, for example, because that's instrumental and this cyberpunk is music with the lyrics. So yeah.
Sure. Sure. Yeah. Yeah. It does change kind of. I'm sure how it hits the ear too, right? Do you
Mm.
feel that way?
What do you mean with the?
Oh, like having an instrumental piece that is immersive versus
Yeah.
something with vocal, it's gonna hit you differently.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. And you
Yeah.
also, I sometimes listen out to the Witcher music when I commute to work.
Oh, cool. Nice.
And because there's Swedish, she's a Swedish composer, actually. I didn't know about that.
Okay,
Uh,
okay. Yeah, is it Mikolai
so
Stroinski
she
or
is
something?
called Chris. No, she's a singer though,
Oh, the
a
singer. I
vocalist.
see, I see. Yeah.
Vocalist Christine Slagman. It
Okay.
doesn't sound good in English. Slagman. Slagman.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
that is with the lyrics, but
Hmm.
yeah, you get a bit distracted with the lyrics if you. I mean, I usually read on the train, so
Mm, mm.
sometimes I have to have the instrumental music instead to be
Sure.
able to focus because the lyrics.
I, I
I'm
I'm I'm
listening
the
to the
same
words.
way.
Mm,
Oftentimes, like you know those ambience videos you can find where it's just like
yeah.
papers rustling and like in a library or something, and I'll
Mm,
do those sometimes, or I'll do ones with light ambient music.
mm,
Just depends. Sometimes it's fun to like listen to stuff that has been written in honor of something. Like you can hear albums that have been made or tracks that have been made that are like a book companion. You know, maybe it's
mm.
an unofficial release, maybe it's official, but it's sometimes fun to listen to those too because even though those have more dynamics to them,
Yeah.
you kind of feel very immersed in the world. You know,
Yeah.
and those are typically instrumental as well.
I'm very grateful when uh, I can't say that to the composer. Maybe if you, when I listen to you, and if you make both for TV shows and games as well, and so on.
Mm.
But for me, it's that feeling to get immersed by music makes me escape reality for a while,
Yeah, yeah,
troubles and so on. So when that happens, it's so rewarding, and I'm so grateful because it's a fresh air and a peaceful soul for a while. So it has a lot of impact, I think, for us just enjoying it and watching it, for example.
yeah, yeah. No, for me too. I'm the same way, you know. I'm as much a fan of music and these types of things as getting the dream to work on it, you know. But
Mm.
I also approach it as a fan. Like, what would I want to hear as a fan? Like, what would
Mm.
I? How do I feel? Getting to see this thing, or so it's nice. It's nice when you love the thing that you get to work on. You know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's for me. These things are only hobbies so far. Let's see in
Hmm.
the future, but so
Yeah,
far it's
yeah.
only my hobbies. I was reading the. I'm a big Malasan
Oh yeah, yeah.
dude, so I really enjoy that, as you know. But I was reading the second book, I think it was. You have read the first one, or
I've
maybe
read
only
the
the
first
second.
three actually. I'm on House of Chains right now.
That's right. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was in Dead House Gates. No spoiler for you, Malasan people who are watching this. Only that it's in the desert. It was in the winter here, and
Uh,
it was snowstorm outside.
Oh yeah.
I read the about the Raraku Desert.
Hmm.
So the weather outside, affected my immersion a lot when I was reading the book. I got really engaged, and then I had some. I don't think I think it was maybe classical music or some
Yeah.
maybe Baldur's Gate 3 music or something like that. So it really made me, sink into the book.
Oh, that's so cool.
So
Yeah.
everything was, gone a bit outside of me, but I was in the book thanks to the music and the sound effects.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's great. I love that. Yeah, I do find weather actually to be a huge component in my reading experience. You know, it's like when it's raining outside or something like that, it's like the perfect day to just lose yourself in a book, you know. Have the have the a fireplace going or the digital fireplace, the
Yeah,
ambient
right.
the
Yeah.
ambient fireplace music thing going on and just fall into a book for a few hours or a few days. Yeah.
Should we change a little bit? Two books.
Yeah. Let's do it. Yeah.
Yeah, great. Because yeah, you have your booktube channel
Mhm.
as well, which is great. I haven't watched the music channels because you have a music channel too, right?
Mhm, mhm. Yeah.
So that's a bit new for me. So I have to check that out. And
Oh yeah,
if
yeah, totally.
you're
Yeah.
watching, check both the book tube and the music tube. What do you say in music tube? Maybe say
I
music tube.
don't even know. Let's go with
YouTube.
that. I'm down with
Yeah.
that.
Um, how come you started the booktube channel and you said I don't know if you meant that, but it's okay. I mean that you came into fantasy. It sounded like a bit later.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, tell us about your channel and your reading. What do you read?
Sure. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So as I mentioned, I came to fantasy late and officially late, I would say. I had these little smatterings of fantasy experiences, but it really was I fell into it heavily in 2019 onwards. So, at that time I started watching Daniel Green and Mike's book reviews, right when Mike's book reviews got started. And
Mm,
so I just fell into it, and then COVID happened. Of course, so we were all locked indoors, and I was watching a ton of booktube at that time. So I was a avid watcher for years, and finally, I'd finished with the Lawrence team, and it was 2 years of like 100-hour work weeks. Not sustainable, but great experience. And then I was like, I'm gonna get back to a more balanced schedule and work on my own projects again. And then I thought to myself, like, I want to try contributing to the space because we all love to read, and I want to kind of share what I'm reading. And I feel like I read a lot of fantasy, sci-fi, horror, but then lately I've been getting into historical fiction and memoirs as well. So
mm,
it's kind of all across the map, but I also figured like it might be a good way to combine these different worlds, talk about like I have an adaptation news segment on my Shelfesteem channel
mm,
that is specifically about adaptations that are in the works of people's favorite books, but it's you know giving more insight into the process of, oh, they announced it 6 months ago, we haven't heard anything since, what could be happening behind the scenes. Or sometimes I'm privy to information that's not necessarily like not public, but it will be on specific platforms that are geared towards like people in the post-production industry. Where in the pipeline is it specifically? Oh, did a line producer just get added to that? That means maybe XYZ is happening. So providing more insight into that, or behind the scenes of books to screen, that whole process. So I
mm,
kind of try to add a little bit of that flavor, but then of course I have like a weekly reading roundup where I talk
mhm,
about the books I'm reading and
mm,
all that. And the monthly TBRs and all the regular booktube stuff.
mm. Yeah,
um
yeah. I
yeah.
think I mean, who are watching my videos, that I'm a bit niched in my reading. Actually, BookTube
Yeah,
has helped me to broaden myself. I'm
that's
reading
it.
books now thanks to
Yeah,
BookTube. I don't have so many authors. I sometimes think when I look at my bookshelf, but they write a lot of books.
they do.
So
Yeah.
there is a lot of books there. But thanks to BookTube, yeah, many of you, I read a lot of things like Gene Wolfe and
Oh,
sci-fi.
that's I have yet to read Gene Wolfe, but I'm hoping to get to him next year at some point.
Yeah.
I think once I finish Janny Wirtz and
Mm.
Malazan Book of the Fallen, then I think that's going to be the next one I'll
Yeah,
tackle.
then yeah, I mean you have
Yeah.
I have Jenny Words and I want to, I mean I actually plan to read it, like, that you can do in life, plan
Yeah.
to read. But I usually I got stuck in the Suneater series.
Oh,
So
yes. Are you all caught up?
no, I'm in the beginning of book four, Kingdom of
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
I think it's called.
I'm very
Uh,
excited to hear what you think once you finish
have
that
you
one.
read the whole
Yep,
that
I'm all caught up, ready for
yeah,
November for the
yeah.
final one. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, I like that. Actually, I think that one is interesting to maybe just stay a bit and talk about for a
Yeah, oh
minute.
yeah.
Because I think I don't know if you agree with that, but when
Mm,
I read Rukio, also when I talk to him, because he's been on the channel a few times,
right, right.
um, I think that is very cinematic. The book is very cinematic. I can almost see the movie. I can almost hear the
Yeah.
music.
Yeah.
In a way that is not with Dune, for example. I think the Rukius is much more cinematic, like it's made to be a movie.
I feel the
I
same
don't
way.
know. Mm,
I feel the same way, and I really hope that the industry gets to a place where they are willing to, jump into sci-fi, fantasy, big budget adaptations again. Because everyone's kind of pulled back over the last year or two, with the
mm,
industry contraction and everything. But I feel like if there was ever a series I would want to see adapted, it would be this one.
mm,
It's the same thing. I felt the same, reading. It's like it is so cinematic. Hadrian is such a complex character, and it's
mm,
like you have you. I have never seen really that kind of a complex protagonist, you know, hero, anti-hero, whatever you want to
Mm,
call him, controversial character, eh, as the forefront of a TV show. You know,
mm.
not quite in that way, and definitely not in sci-fi. You know, sci-fi TV.
Yeah, I think it might be difficult to, maybe not so. Maybe music can help a lot with that, I think.
I think so.
His
You know,
his introversion and the feelings that is not conveyed in his acts, but you as a reader know he's not, he's doubting himself. So,
100%. I think, you know, even from a musical perspective, it could be interesting to analyze his character because, you know, in the book, he's an unreliable narrator in some ways because you're seeing everything from his POV. Is it
mm,
exactly how it happened?
yeah,
We don't know,
exactly.
you know, and so we're taking it at face value. But it could be very interesting to go like foreshadowing, you know, musically.
Mm,
Who is this character going to be? Who's this character aspiring to be? What is
mm,
the consequence of that, you know, for him or and those around him? Like I think there's a lot of interesting thematic material there that one could highlight musically. So even if it's not on the screen,
mm,
you know, or on the page, it's there. And
mm.
you may not necessarily know, but you feel it, you know. You feel like something is anticipatory or like something is gonna happen, you know.
And I also think with the,
Mhm.
all the Colosseum scenes that are in the Suneater,
Yeah,
with the majestic music and I don't know if that's suitable, but I thinking about the HBO Rome TV series and the
yeah.
Gladiator, of course, and all these things, even if it's sci-fi. So there is a lot of Roman things, of course, in Rukkio's.
There is, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, obviously. So, but have you, from what you are reading, can you sometimes feel when you read a book? So I don't know if you can
Mm.
feel that. So I mean, okay, this was a really good book. This would be a great book to make music too.
Oh, I think about that all the
Yeah.
time.
Mm,
Yeah. I think about that all the time, and especially I would say fantasy of any genre somehow seems to, you know, it's the way the worlds are fleshed out, I think, and the magic systems or the lack thereof, you know, sometimes even the soft magic systems, the characterization, like all those things are so ripe for like musical
mm,
exploration, I think. You know,
mm,
I've always had this dream of maybe one day doing like a book to soundtrack album, you know, or something like that, of
mm.
different series or something. I don't know.
Yes. Yeah.
But I've always find that, you know, from anything I read. First Law, I can feel it, you know, musically. Dresden
Yeah.
Files, you know, it's like I just always have a musical thing come to mind
Mm.
when thinking of those. Yeah.
That's great.
I don't know. Yeah. It's funny how
Yeah.
that works.
The creative human being, they are great. I think
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
of that. What the TBR that you're working with, the channel, and how do you? I mean, I'm a very spontaneous reader, I must
Are
say.
you?
I
Yeah.
read, I read, on passion. So if I
Mm.
find something, I just read it. So
Yeah, yeah.
I'm immersed, and then maybe I get unimmersed, so to speak. So then I change book. But are you a reader that really plan your reading, like this week, this book, this month, this book, etc.? So,
I think I became that more as I started doing booktube, you know,
mm,
because so many of it is like other booktubers are like, "Hey, you want to join this read long?" And I'll say,
mm,
"Sure, yeah." And then suddenly I'm like, "Oh, I already have four things on the schedule for this month. Oh, whoops, you know, how did that
mm,
happen?" So I think it's become more of a structured thing. I think if I could do it the way I want to do, and I think it's something I'm going to explore more next year, is to have like a couple of slots that are structured
mm.
and then a couple that are completely spontaneous,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, and maybe do something like that because I think, like, I love the idea of spontaneous reads. I find that every time I pick up something I'm really feeling in that moment, just on a whim, I just end up enjoying it more,
Mm,
you know. So there's something to be said about that. However, you know, it is fun to do. Like in October, I'm going to be reading almost exclusively horror books,
yeah.
and it's fun to have these little markers to like, oh, let's just try something different, you know,
Mm,
that I wouldn't normally do. Like my own proclivities wouldn't
mm,
be like, oh, you know, let's try this. Or if I get suggested a read along, it's like I wouldn't have necessarily scheduled this here on my own, but
mm,
then it opens up my worldview to something different because it's, you know, it's not what I would have done, and so it's gonna make me maybe think of the book in a different way.
mm.
So I don't know. I tried to do it like I'm very much a one foot in one world, one foot in the other. You know, everything in
Yeah, and
moderation, including moderation, I guess.
yeah, I think that's maybe I'm a bit unstrategic as a YouTuber because I have this, spontaneous way of reading, also gaming as well. So,
Yeah, yeah. I
taking
think
things.
that's great though, honestly, for what it's worth. Like, I feel like that's the great part about the space is everyone has different reading habits. And
Mm,
so, it's like I love seeing both. I love seeing channels of people who are exclusively mood readers and they're kind of deciding as they go or
mm,
are changing as they go. I like the ones like Mike's book reviews that are very structured.
mhm.
Um it's kind of fun to see both because I think we're all very varying degrees of these things. So
Yeah,
I
and
think
for
it's
me,
cool
it's
that you
important
do it that
to
way.
not
Yeah.
to sorry, not to I have my chores, so to speak, in my job. So
Hmm. Yeah.
reading, gaming, etc. should be fun and not feel like a
More
bit of
homework.
pressure, more. So yeah, exactly, like a burden, so to speak.
Yeah,
So
totally.
that's actually the. I deviated a bit during the summer because I had vacations, and then I tried to put
Mm.
out more videos and try to be more thematic as well, so on.
Yeah.
Actually,
Yeah.
what we're doing now is a bit of a thematic thing because this will be called Fantasy Talk with
Yeah.
you, and that's
Yeah.
so far 3 videos with Fantasy Talk with different people. So you're the
Right.
third. Um,
Awesome. Yeah.
Maybe you can go. Yeah, I think.
I love like that kind of thematic discussions too. Because it's fun. I mean, I think like with reading, there's so much we can talk about.
Mm,
And just I don't know if you feel this way, but I feel like sometimes that limitation in like let's talk about this one particular thing can be
yeah,
liberating, actually.
yeah.
You know, putting the focus on one thing so you can still universal possibilities of things to talk about.
Yeah, exactly.
You
One
know,
thing that I really would like to talk more with you about, since you've
yeah,
read the Suneater until the book in November,
yeah, yeah.
is to talk about it more in depth in relation to not only music, but also about the book itself and
Mm.
Hadrian, for example. And that would be really interesting to hear your thoughts
Oh, that would be
about
so much fun.
that.
Yeah, that would be so much fun. Yeah, because I think that like I feel like that series is very interesting because every character is very complex. And it's
Mm,
not like I love high concept sci-fi.
mm,
Oftentimes there's one-dimensional characters in a lot of them. And that's not
yeah.
necessarily like a bad thing because I think in those particular cases it lets those concepts shine.
Mm,
I don't mind it, and I'm a character first kind of reader typically, but I feel like this really strikes a balance between pretty wild concepts and also very deep characters, layered characters.
yeah,
I think it
right.
would be fun to have a discussion about that.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Let's do it. The Have you read Ada Palmer, by the way? Do you know her?
No, I don't actually. What has she written?
She's written a book, Two Light the Lightning, not two like in the number, but two like in 200.
Two, Tio. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's sci-fi, and I'm
Cool.
gonna find her. She is American, and she you don't know which gender people have, which can
Oh,
feel a bit
interesting.
strange. Yeah, I think it's interesting. Yeah, two like the lightning,
Two
seven
light blue.
surrenders. It's quite
Cool.
something.
That sounds right up my alley, honestly.
Terra Ignota is the world. Terra, and she's influenced by Gene Wolfe. It says here.
Oh, cool. Awesome. Yeah, maybe I'll read them both for comparison.
Yeah, actually,
Cool.
that sci-fi was so far a bit advanced for me.
Mm.
Since I'm learning sci-fi, I chatted with Sam Weiss
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
about the Rokio, but also talked a bit about Dune, things
Mm.
like this. I started with Dune, then it was Rokio, and then I have this. How is it with you? Because fantasy. I read a lot of mythology, as you know as well. So
Hmm.
um, the Mahabharata or
Oh yeah.
Mahabharata, I think people say
Yeah,
in
yeah.
American
I remember
pronunciation.
watching the show when I was growing up and then
Yeah,
reading the stories and yeah, yeah.
that's iconic. People say I haven't seen it, but
Oh yeah, yeah.
mm,
It's still great. I mean the obviously the special effects are pretty dated at best, but
yeah.
But the acting was always great. The dialogue is incredible.
Mm.
You know, just fantastically done. Yeah.
Yeah, probably the dice is the same. So,
Yeah, exactly.
but and the Iliad and the
Hmm.
Odyssey. So I read all this. Bhagavad Gita is not, that's not a. I mean, it depends on how you view these books, right?
Sure,
You can read
sure.
it from different perspectives. So I have a strong faith as well. So, but I
Mm-hmm.
also read them as learning. Like I read Norse mythology and
Sure.
so on. But it's special with the Hindu mythology because it's something I believe in. So that's
Yeah, yeah,
something else,
absolutely.
so to speak. Is that the have you seen TV shows and movies about religion with the religious themes like about Jesus or anything like that, like the Passion, or I don't know if you with the
Yeah.
music, if you have thought about the similarities and things like that.
That's interesting actually, because I think of stories like where religion is an overt part of it, which is, Contact by Carl Sagan,
Yeah.
book,
Mm,
and also the film with Jodie Foster and I think Matthew McConaughey, if I remember correctly, which was the science and religion debate.
mm,
And that was kind of at the forefront of that film, while being a story about a girl who lost her father, and
mm,
and being very wanting to explore the stars, and kind of an alien context story. So a bunch of different things, but
mm,
basically science and religion are at the forefront there. And the
mm.
music doesn't necessarily telegraph that, but then you think of something where the religious aspect is not at the forefront at all, but there is a religiosity
Yeah.
of the way the approach to the film is, which is Interstellar, and the
Mm,
Hans
yeah.
Zimmer
Right.
score, which was done
Mm-hmm.
on that beautiful organ.
Mm,
And a lot of that is about he was trying to capture the father's love for their child. That's kind of the crux of that main theme, but it's played on this beautiful organ. And if you hear the overture of that score, it almost sounds like a religious experience.
mm,
And I think that juxtaposition is very interesting because it's the vastness of space. It's so lonely, so desolate, and yet there's that human element. There's the faith element there.
mm.
And so that's a different type of musical approach, I think, too. So
Yeah.
that, yeah, that's just off the top of my head. I'm sure there's like way more examples or even better examples, but that's something I don't know. How about you? Have you seen any that feel that way for you,
I
or
think
heard
yeah.
or read or anything? Yeah.
Yeah, I think the carnival, but the carnival is maybe you're cheating a bit because it's obviously religious themes in that with
Hmm.
but still the music um yeah, Interstellar is a good example.
Hmm.
I think the Batman movies, a bit long shot maybe, can have that
Yeah.
effect as well on me. I have to think about on the movies, of course, Lord of the Rings and so on. I had
Yeah.
the do you say ingress in English? I'm not sure here. The ingress, the first three lines you have when you describe your channel,
Oh, like
the introduction or
yeah,
ingress
like
or
bio or
yeah, exactly, yeah,
yeah,
bio.
yeah.
Yeah, I still have it on Twitter or on X. The
Hmm.
can fantasy be an entrance for the spiritual seeker? So, because
Mm.
I don't know. I mean, US is a bit different, but Sweden is a very, very secular country, meaning people are
Mm.
usually agnostic or they say they don't believe in God. And
Right.
not everyone, it's changing a little bit, but
Yeah.
mostly people. If you ask someone in Sweden, 9 out of 10, do you believe in God? They say no, because they're a bit, embarrassed to say it's
Mm.
embarrassing to say that you believe in God.
I
Uh,
see. I see.
but then it was there is a scientist here. He's a religious scientist,
Yeah.
and he asked Swedish people about, where do you find spirituality? And then they said that it's when they're in the forest.
Mm.
I think music, so nature is channeling spiritual values. I think
Yeah.
music in the same way can channel spirituality. You can feel, you know, being in the moment, listening to a beautiful musical score or watching a
Yeah.
TV show with great music. You can really like, I think Game of Thrones is part of that, not everywhere obviously, but where you really feel one with what you're seeing yourself and where you're sitting. So I think the music really has that
Mm.
ability to channel spirituality without being religious, so to speak.
No, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, you think about, religious texts, and a lot of them are stories
Mm,
to illustrate a point, or also to, as a part of the religious tapestry,
mm,
right?
mhm,
And I think, like music, like you said, maybe it's the way the person feels when they're writing it. It
mm,
translates. Where that what headspace are they in? And I'm sure a lot of that is conversations between, if it's for a screen, composer and director. It's like, what is this story really about?
mm, mm,
What's the philosophy behind it? What made
mm,
you want to do this?
mm,
And that purpose really is kind of, maybe that sense of purpose and that sense of faith are two sides of the same coin, you know,
yeah. Yeah, and I
possible.
think
Yeah.
music can, I mean, when watching movies, it's not really answering your question, but
No, yeah.
the breath and the the pulse goes down. You get peaceful listening to music or watching a beautiful movie with
Yeah,
beautiful music. It touches your soul and your emotions. That's
it does. Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
spirituality. Um, I know you had a time to go to or a place to go to. I think we so I'm going to do like this, Nikhil. Now it's okay. We're going
Yeah.
to round up a bit here.
Okay, sure.
Thanking you so much for being here. I looking forward to have more conversations with you on many topics. For example, the Suneater. Is it something else
Absolutely.
you would like to know? If we want to listen to your music, where do we go? For example.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can go to my website at nikhilkmusic.com. You can also find me on, Spotify, Bandcamp, all the digital platforms as well. And yeah, you and on my YouTube channel as well.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Nikhil. Great to see you. This was really, really fun. And I'm sure you viewers also will meet Nikhil again. And please check in to his channel and subscribe, of course. That's something you have to do. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Shrikant. It's great to chat with you, man. And I'm so looking forward to the next one for sure.
Yeah. Thanks.